1982 was quite a year for sci-fi and pop culture. The first compact disc was produced, the first emoticon was posted, Blade Runner, Star Trek II, The Thing, Tron all hit theaters. But that year was dominated by an extraterrestrial that changed our lives forever and stands the test of time, as well as took on Michael Jackson's 1982 release of Thriller. On this last day of the month, join me, Victor, as PopCon transports you to June 1982, when the most famous alien life form landed in this flashback. Steven Spielberg was on top in 1982 with a couple of incredible films. And although both are classic and beloved movies that have taken their place in pop culture, it is the extraterrestrial that owned the year when it debuted in June and created a phenomenon no one could foresee and continues to stand the test of time. Now, Poltergeist is one of my favorite films, and it has Steven Spielberg written all over it. But in '82, I connected with the character Elliot from E.T., as would so many others hovering around 10 years of age. Originally titled A Boy's Life, you did not have to come from a broken home to relate to Elliot's desire for something he could call his own, something he could take care of, simply a friend. We all could emotionally connect with Elliot and by default, emotionally connect with E.T. Like so many, I sobbed at his departure at the end of the film. Did you have a lump in your throat like so many others? Were you so invested in the story you couldn't stop your eyes from welling up? I didn't want to leave the theater. I didn't want E.T. to leave. And his final goodbye was like saying farewell to the best friend you always wanted. And I was not the only one. Unique for movies, Steven Spielberg filmed in chronological order to allow the linear storytelling to take its effect on the actors and create more believable and justifiable reactions and emotions. The audience recognized it, and child and adult alike walked away with all the feels. And E.T. walked away with all the accolades, the respect, the money. The writing was on the wall. E.T. opened in June at $11 million, and then, in its fourth week, made $14 million. It stayed at number one for 6 weeks, and would return to number one at the end of its run during Christmas that same year. It would become the biggest box office hit for the next 11 years. It was not easy to dethrone, and who wanted to? Everyone found something to love in this heartwarming family film that spoke directly to children and the adults who populated their world. The film reinforced the importance of the child's point of view by filming all of the adult characters from afar, obstructed from view or from the back or even the waist down. Unless it was the mother who herself was a kid at heart, as she tried to connect with her 3 children and keep a family together during a difficult divorce, something very common and familiar to any Gen Xer kid. Roger Ebert gave the film 4 out of 4 stars and wrote, "This is not simply a good movie. It is one of those movies that brush away our cautions and win our hearts." Derek Malcolm of The Guardian wrote that E.T. is a superlative piece of popular cinema, a dream of childhood brilliantly orchestrated to involve not only children, but anyone able to remember being one. Spielberg and the studio were not the only one reaping the rewards. Reese's Pieces had the largest bump in their popularity as Hershey's profits rose 65% due to the clear marketing of the candy in the film. M&M certainly missed that opportunity when they passed on the suggestion. The craze grew fast, and although I can't recall talking about it constantly, it made an impression nonetheless, and my parents took notice. Like millions of others, I couldn't get enough. In a world before information at our fingertips, where I could find on-set stories, making of documentaries, or backstage pictures that would ruin the magic online, I just wanted to go back to the theater over and over and over again. Which was quite normal at the time if you wanted to catch everything you missed. But when you're as young as I, you need someone to go with. Instead, my parents fed my obsession and lonely sadness having to say goodbye to E.T. at the end of the film by drowning me with more E.T. merchandise than available filters on TikTok. There was no shortage of merch. The craze created action figures with moving neck and head, numerous little plastic figures in various moments of the film, a bike toy with Elliot and E.T. in the basket, the infamous finger light-up toy, and so much more. My personal favorite, and still in my collection, the alien spaceship E.T. launcher toy, complete with belt clip, so you could take it anywhere and make your friends jealous. Just like today, cashing in on an idea, a feeling, a moment in time was nothing new, but it could come in surprising places. Neil Diamond, yes, Sweet Caroline Neil Diamond, had a hit that year with Turn On Your Heart Light. Yes, we're talking that heart light. Let's listen in.
Turn on your heart light in the middle of a young boy's dream.
so Neil Diamond, and you couldn't deny it was inspired by the story and the characters, but it was perhaps too close and benefited from the source material without gaining permission.
Take a ride across the moon.
Diamond had a hit and was hit with a lawsuit. Although the song was his last of 8 number ones, he allegedly settled for $25,000 to MCA Universal. Atari Video Game System also cashed in by producing a video game based on the film for the Atari 2600. The game was rushed in 5 weeks for the 1982 holiday season and was immediately raked across the coals based on nearly every aspect of the game. The design, the character, the story, the music, the playability. Not only is it considered one of the worst video games, it is often blamed for the video game industry crash of 1983. Mocked in popular culture today, rumors from that year stated that due to the overproduction and cartridge returns, millions of unsold games were quickly buried in a New Mexico landfill and covered with a layer of concrete. In April 2014, hired to investigate the claim, diggers confirmed that the Alamogordo landfill contained many ET cartridges, among other games. E.T. was everywhere. Fleeting glances of the cute but wise-faced alien lifeform popped up where you'd least expect it to pull on your heartstrings. He sold anything with a simple side-eyed grimace, even in the form of plastic playthings. But E.T. was also licensed, and he was to appear in television public services announcements, one produced by Progressive Corporation. The announcements featured his voice reminding drivers to buckle up. And traffic signs depicting a stylized E.T. wearing a seatbelt were installed on selected roads around the United States. There is still one here in my city. E.T. did not just rule the box office, but our hearts. America didn't see it coming, but saw him as a wholesome example of what a child's life is like. Life through the eyes of a child, and a reminder to everyone else of what we once were. Spielberg knew what he had was special, and he also wrangled the biggest child himself, Michael Jackson, for a turn to not only read the storybook of the film on vinyl and cassette, but to write an original song, a theme song for E.T. to go along with the story. A prized possession I still possess today. Let's take a listen.
Out of the night sky, a ship was descending, the hull glowing with soft light, as if a piece of the moon had fallen. The hatch opened and the crew came out. Odd little beings, moving quietly through the leaves.
Now, regarding the song, another lawsuit would ensue. This time, it was MCA Universal at fault. E.T. the Extraterrestrial audiobook was released by MCA on November 15, 1982, the same month as Michael Jackson's acclaimed 6th studio album, Thriller, despite conditions given by Epic Records, Jackson's record label, that it should not be released until after Thriller. As a result, Epic took legal action against MCA, which forced the album's withdrawal from stores. But even during the short release, E.T. the Extraterrestrial reached number 37 on the Billboard 200 and number 82 on the UK Albums chart. It was well received critically and won Jackson a Grammy Award for Best Recording for Children. What a scandal! And as you can guess, it became very rare indeed, even while being available as a promo on E.T.'s serial crossover. Here's mine, and it is a treasure. Besides the glorious picture of Michael Jackson and E.T., the full-color storybook along with the tape, let me relive what I felt I could not live without. Luckily, the song came with lyrics, and I would not only sing along, but get lost in the emotional fervor caused by simply remembering the friendship and the departure made so clearly heartbreaking in the movie's final moments. In 1985, E.T. became the quiet yet inspirational spokesperson for the Special Olympics, giving all young people hope.
Special Olympics encourages the mentally handicapped to reach for a goal. All they need is a little help from a friend.
Spielberg was also creative director for Universal Studios, and the E.T. Adventure, a theme park ride based on the film, debuted at Universal Studios Florida on June 7, 1990. The $40 million attraction features the title character saying goodbye to visitors by name in his own voice, along with visions of his home planet 8 years after the film's premiere.
From Steven Spielberg's classic motion picture comes a breathtaking new ride for the whole family. Have the adventure of your life with E.T. when you ride the movies at Universal Studios Hollywood.
In 2002, a 20th anniversary DVD was released. Similar to George Lucas' special edition of Star Wars, some significant changes were made to the theatrical release. Deleted scenes, altered dialogue, visual effects alterations, and even some censorship that was highly debated. However, the DVD release of this edition was only available alongside the original 82 version. And after its production run, Spielberg went on record vowing to never change his original released visions of any of his films. Speaking of Star Wars, at Spielberg's suggestion, George Lucas included members of E.T.'s species as a background character in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. E.T. was also one of the franchises featured in the 2015 crossover game LEGO Dimensions, where E.T. appears as one of the playable characters. No sequel has ever been created, and Steven was very wary of its original VHS release.
I'm keeping it.
Is finally coming home on video cassette.
He finally relented and included fail-safes to deter recording your own version from the commercial product. In July 1982, during the film's first theatrical run, Spielberg and the other writer Matheson wrote a treatment for a sequel to be titled E.T. 2: Nocturnal Fears. It would have shown Elliot and his friends getting kidnapped by evil aliens and attempting to contact E.T. himself for help. Spielberg decided against pursuing it, feeling it would do nothing but rob the original of its virginity. E.T. is not about going back to the planet. However, on November 28, 2019, during NBC's broadcast of the 93rd Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Xfinity released a 4-minute commercial considered as a short film sequel to the original film titled A Holiday Reunion. And I saw it during that broadcast, and I loved it. The commercial stars Henry Thomas, reprising his role as Elliot, now an adult with a family of his own. In it, E.T. returns to Earth for the holiday season and focuses on the importance of being with family. Now, references and nods to the original film are featured, such as a photo of the Taylor's family dog Harvey on the kitchen fridge and a replica of the Speak and Spell communication device. John Williams' score from the original film is mixed into the commercial, and Spielberg was consulted before production began. If you haven't seen it, I'll put a link in the description.
I'll be right here.
And now, today, in the 2022 film Chippendale Rescue Rangers, a character is shown watching a film called Batman vs. E.T., in which E.T. is shown to meet and interact with Batman. And a billboard for Batman vs. E.T. is also seen in the film. Well, here we are back in the present, having traveled 40 years. And as you see, E.T. still lives within our hearts and our memories decades later. I hope you've enjoyed this trip through time, the fantastic visit by the most famous alien life form, E.T., the extra-terrestrial. If you like this content and want more flashbacks to certain time periods between the mid-70s and early 90s, please subscribe, like, and let me know where you'd like to go next in the comments. Until next time.
The ship lifted off, like the moon slowly rising, then soared away, a comet swallowed by the night.